Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Rebel Roundup, our daily news and opinion show. And boy, we've got news, and boy, we've got opinions. I'm your regular host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and I'm joined today by my friend and colleague from Regina, Saskatchewan, Lise Merle. How's it going?
Hello, my darling Sheila Gunn Reid. Well, I made the mistake of bragging that I got a little bit of a sunburn over the weekend. And guess what, guys? It's snowing in Saskatchewan today. So I should have kept that to myself. But pray tell, Sheila Gunn Reid, what's new since we last spoke?
Oh my goodness. This never-ending drama with the CBC, their little itty bitty correction about their allegations against Drea, it's not enough. And I'll tell
It's
you
not,
why.
it's
It's
not
not
enough.
enough, not because
No.
I say it's not enough, because I definitely do want my pound and or pounds of flesh from Rosie Barton. But CBC says I'm entitled to it, and I'll get to that in a second. But I should tell everybody what we're doing because the show is packed. We've got Cat Canada joining us later on because
Mhm.
she confronted Jagmeet Singh on his treatment of our friend Drea Humphrey. She caught him at what looks to be the opening of an envelope on Vancouver
A
Island. There's like
passport? Yeah.
seven people milling around in a public park. Could have been a picnic, could have been a birthday party, could have been an NDP event. So we'll get to that in a bit. I'll tell everybody what we're doing though. So if you
Yes.
are watching us on the wonderful free speech platform of Rumble, thank you for supporting a platform that allows you to speak your mind as well as allows us to speak our mind. If you want to support the work that we do over there, you can leave something called a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we are obligating ourselves to read it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our very best, but I cannot guarantee it's time permitting, if you know what I mean. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, we are recently remonetized over there. God only knows how long that's going to last. But we realize that many of you just prefer to watch us that way. I get it. It's easy, it's convenient, and it's just, it's how your brains are trained. I get it. So you can leave us a super chat over there. Same rules apply over the $5 US cutoff. We are obligating ourselves. Under that, we'll do our very best. But also, if you'd like to support our work and you're watching the recorded version of the show, you can leave something called a super thanks. That's their paid comment. And we appreciate it so much. We realize there's fewer bucks left in your pocket than ever in Mark Carney's Canada. We appreciate that you choose to support us. Because we'll never take a penny from Justin Trudeau or Mark Carney. Now I have to train my mind to say Mark Carney, although really, what's the difference, Sheila? To do the work that we do, because how could we hold him to account if we did? And if you ever needed to see a distinction in between what we do at Rebel News to hold the government to account versus what the mainstream media is doing, this past week has been just an absolute prime example in a bunch of different ways. And I'll do my best to get to them on the show today, including the treatment of Lorraine Brett by Glenn McGregor, best known for attempting to prize fight grandmothers on the steps of the Ottawa courthouse during the Tamara Leach trial. And we'll get to him in a little bit because what a piece of work that guy is. I was stuck in a room with him for 2 days. I feel like
Oh,
is that what Gitmo was like? I don't know. It's wild. I'm still having a hard time digesting just what we went through. And I'm laughing, but it was appalling. And anyway, perhaps I'll share a letter that I wrote once I had a minute to sort of figure out how us rebels had spent 2 full days of our lives, like 2 full days in that media room, because you have to get there early because that's how you get a good spot in line to get the questions. You figure out where the X is on the floor. It's not like they're hiding it and then you sit beside the X because the X is where you're going to line up. Like it wasn't like that was my theory. We'll get there, we'll get early, we'll be the first to pick up our media badges, we'll head into the media room, which was like noon, and the debates didn't start till 8, so you spent like 8 hours there, or 7, I guess. And so you just sit there and you work or you talk to the other independent media or whatever, because that's what you do. And for 2 full days, 2 full work days, I should stress, we were subjected to jeering, taunts, thrown paper, heckling, swearing, arguments, when we're just like, we're just trying to do our jobs, just sitting there quietly, working, writing. I'm working on a project with Lise behind the scenes, so I was trying to kill time and work on that. And like everything we did, they were like jeering at us and yelling at us, like heckling. Wild. It was like going to a bad comedy show where you're the bad stand-up and they're just yelling at you the whole time. And you're like, Drea, God love her, they're jeering at her, and she asked that powerful question through the jeering. Oh. So once I got out of the sort of the heat of it all, and I was on my Porter Airlines flight home, which provides you free high-speed internet, I thought, now that I've sort of gotten out of the situation, I can sort of put my pen to paper about how the commission and the CBC failed us, because I will tell you, friends, it is a thing that the federal government takes very seriously, workplace harassment. And the second they accredited us, they were required to provide to us a safe workplace. And I went looking at the federal government's workplace harassment guidelines, and it looks as though the commission and the CBC used it as a checklist instead of like a thing that they aren't supposed to do. They're like, oh yeah, social isolation, okay, let's do that one. Swearing, let's do that one. Like they just went down the list. Violence, let's do that one. And so I wanted to read to you the letter that I sent to the commission and the commissioner while I was somewhere over Winnipeg on my way home. If we want to bring that up, because Ezra was sort of in a better mood about how everybody had been treated than me. I was really angry, and I just had to do something about it. And I thought, no, these guys are getting a formal complaint. And so that's what I did. No, not this one. The other one. The one, that's also the letter that I sent after the first night of jeering. I sent a letter from the desk of the president of the Independent Press Gallery, representing all of the independent journalists that were in that room, to denounce what our treatment. But I was really angry about how our people had been treated, and I thought I have to do something one step further. So it's my letter to the Leaders Debates Commissioner Michael Cormier. Commissioner Cormier, here it is. Sorry, I'm doing so much talking, Lise. But no, Commissioner Cormier, I'm writing to raise serious concerns about the treatment of Rebel News journalists during the recent federal leaders debates, including publisher Ezra Levant and our reporting team. Despite being fully accredited by your commission, Rebel News journalists were subjected to ongoing organized harassment by fellow members of the accredited press corps, most notably Ethan Cox of Ricochet Media. Ethan, update your bio picture, by the way. And Stuart Benson of the Hill Times, who taunted, heckled, and hurled vulgarities at our team while we attempted to do our jobs. This conduct from these two and many others began prior to the French language debate scrum and continued unabated until we left the English language debate venue the following night. The open abuse occurred in front of security without any intervention from either security or commission staff. This is not simply unprofessional. It's a breakdown of the standards of conduct expected in a media environment. The commission's failure to enforce even a basic level of decorum empowered this mob-like atmosphere and undermined any basic commitment to fair and equal access for accredited journalists. Equally disturbing was your personal participation in a 7-minute segment with CBC's David Cochrane, aired nationally, wherein the CBC editorialized and lobbied for the removal of Rebel News from the debate process. Your complicity in this one-sided defamatory coverage, absent of any effort to contact Rebel News for a response, violated a core tenet of responsible journalism: the right of reply. This raises serious questions about your impartiality and the commission's role in enabling state media to smear an independent outlet. Compounding this failure was the dangerously irresponsible reporting by mainstream media figures who falsely portrayed Rebel News as the disruptors. That narrative directly contributed to 2 physical assaults, one on journalist David Menzies by Terry Guion, a member of Mark Carney's media team, and another on videographer Lincoln Jay by an accredited media videographer. We therefore respectfully demand the following: a formal investigation into the conduct of accredited journalists, commission staff, and security personnel through both debate nights, disciplinary consequences, including revocation of accreditation for those found responsible for harassment or assault, a public apology, and official clarification from the commission affirming the equal right of all accredited media to participate without intimidation or discrimination. A formal investigation into your own participation in the CBC segment with David Cochrane, and a commitment to prevent similar partisan interventions in the future. The commission cannot claim to uphold fairness while turning a blind eye to mob hostility against journalists it deems ideologically inconvenient. We expect immediate action to prevent these failures from reoccurring. Sincerely, me, editor-in-chief at Rebel News. Complaining was not enough. I needed to file a formal complaint and make a list of demands and put the commission on notice that you provided to us an unsafe workplace, which the federal government takes very seriously.
Have you received a response, Sheila Gunn Reid?
No. Now, I expected that I wouldn't probably receive one over the Easter weekend, but today's Tuesday, and it is after 1 o'clock Eastern time, and these people don't seem to care. So we might have to step it up a notch.
Well, one of the most interesting parts of this entire story is that the CBC and the mainstream media spent an entire day lobbying for the commissioner to do something, haranguing him and harassing him and demanding that something be done. And then when he canceled the scrum the second night of the English debate, and nobody could ask a question, meaning they got exactly what they wanted. He did something. Now they are demanding that the commissioner be fired. And I just love this. I just love when the left eats itself unintentionally, but systematically eats itself. They demanded action. They got the exact action that they demanded. Plus they included themselves, right? There is no way the debate commissioner could have kicked out Rebel News or any independent media in that room and not be in violation of what the court already told them they had to do to include us. So then they shot themselves in the foot, and now they're calling for the debate commissioner and for the entire thing to be scrapped. Well done, CBC. Didn't you do good? I mean, this whole thing is just so crazy. And another part of the story that I wanted to bring up to you, just to sort of get your take on it, is overwhelmingly the people that were targeted for harassment and abuse by the mainstream media in that room were Western journalists. With the exception of David Menzies, I think, and Alexa Lavoie, who are from sort of Ontario and Quebec, the rest of the journalists in that room that were being targeted for this harassment were Western Canadian journalists. And this is anti-Western sort of discrimination that we saw in that room. This is what they think of us, Western Canada. This whole thing is what they think. They not only don't like us, they can't tolerate us. And so what do you make of that, Sheila, that this was another part of Western abuse?
Of course it is. I'll tell you, my question on the second night was going to be about the canola tariffs and why nobody seems to be focusing on these canola tariffs with the same urgency that they're focusing on the auto tariffs, considering that 40,000 family farms are affected by it, 200,000 jobs, and $44 billion in economic activity. And yet everybody's burning down the country because of auto tariffs, and nobody's even talking about the retaliatory 100% tariffs being targeted at Western Canadian producers. That was my question. But I couldn't ask that question because the mainstream media couldn't behave themselves. There was no ability for them to kick us out for being well behaved and getting on the mic first, right? That's literally our job, was to go there, behave ourselves, and ask questions. We did that. So how do you kick us out for that? I think they tried to goad us in to arguments. We weren't taking it. Ezra's like, calm down,
Oh,
brother, be cool. You know, like get
Ezra,
control of your emotions. Both times they couldn't make us
yes,
be poorly behaved. So when that didn't work, they canceled the whole thing. You know, and my
yes,
proof of this is the guys who yelled at us did not have their accreditation revoked.
that's
They
right.
got to
That's
sit
right.
there. They got to
Yes.
sit there the rest of the time. Like Ethan Cox freaked out after the scrum was canceled, but nobody said, "Excuse me, buddy, this is not a proper workplace comportment. You've got to go." Nobody said anything to Stuart Benson
No,
when
as
he
a
had
matter
a
of
conniption halfway through the day. People were coming up and high-fiving him.
as a matter of fact, they were supported for their bad behavior. They were supported for their abuse and harassment of Rebel News and independent media in that room. But I got to say, Ezra handled it so beautifully. Like so beautifully. Ezra Levant is the definition of a happy warrior. Okay,
Completely.
of a happy warrior. He is never more delighted than to take their arguments, dismantle them in front of their faces, and then just sort of smile about it. Like, I wish you would have come with better arguments. But
yeah, it's not even
demeanor,
fair sometimes.
No, but he was really so charming and handled it so well. And I do believe that this put a big old spotlight on Rebel News in the most positive way. This is a sort of the level of behavior that we should expect from our media in Canada. Like Ezra just did such a great job at modeling that behavior for all of these crazy left-wing idiots in this room. And I think he said it best when he said, these are Antifa with the press pass. He wasn't wrong
completely.
when he said that. He wasn't wrong.
Completely.
And I love how, they flew off the handle. They created this entire narrative. And then validated it. You know what I mean? Like threw it through the validation circles that they use and promoted it, not thinking that of course Rebel News was going to come back with receipts. Of course we were. This is what we do. And we showed the country exactly what happened in that time and space. And I know that there, one of the criticisms that I've seen online is that, the media shouldn't make it about themselves. Well, if this isn't a perfect example of the institutional rot that we've seen take root in Canada, I'm not sure what is. This is just another example of how this sort of permeates through these groups, and regular people like you and I can't get a foot in the door because our elites, our intellectual and moral betters have already decided the outcome of the story. So no, we're not delighted that there is, that this was blown up in the way it was, but it does show Canadians this is what we're up against, and this is what we fight against. We believe that little guys should have a voice. It is the most important thing to us, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. I mean, if any of these people at the CBC think that this is going away, they are out of their minds.
Yeah, and like the first day when we were there, we were told there's no recording in the media room. So we just felt like, okay, well, we want to follow the rules because they're going to kick us out at the very first infraction. So we just thought, okay, we're just going to put up with the heckling. We'll work through the heckling. We'll work through the jeering. We'll work through the paper throwing. And we'll just do our jobs, and that'll be it. And that'll be our victory, right? And so we didn't record the footage of that happening, but you can see the moment it rattled Drea on the microphone. But the next day, we just thought, this is a free-for-all in here. Apparently you can just do whatever the heck you want. So yeah, of course, we're going to start recording the bad behavior, which we did. Ezra also caught CBC lying about him, but we'll get to CBC lying about Drea first, and then we'll get to CBC lying about Ezra. We'll just touch on it because I think he talked about it yesterday, about how they said, oh, he interrupted our live broadcast. And Ezra's like,
debunked.
Your hairstylist is in the frame, Rosie. Your groomer, your farrier is in the frame, Rosie. So no, that's a Western Canadian joke. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Oh, it was a good. Oh, it smacked. That was a real good one. Your farrier, Rosie. My goodness. Oh goodness. Yeah. No, it was debunked because of course we have tape, and of course we're going to bring receipts, and of course we're going to debunk every single one of the stupid and untrue things that they said. They are the purveyors of mis and disinformation in Canada. And I did a post on X, and I said, because they so easily lied about Rebel News, it goes into question, what else are they lying to us about? Are they lying to
100%.
us? Are they lying to us about climate change, about the Liberal Party of Canada, about the Rainbow Mafia, about residential schools, about, any number of these pet projects that they've been promoting for the last, I don't know, 20, 15, 25 years? Of course they are. Of course they are. If they would so easily lie about this, create an entire narrative, and then put it out into the Canadian public like it is fact. Well, we got some big questions for the CBC. They're not going to see the end of this for sure.
Not just lying about stuff that we don't have a video of. Like, we have video of what happened in the media room, and they're still like, yeah, Rebel News were the disruptors. They tried to interrupt our live broadcast, and it's like, no, we didn't.
Yes.
No, we didn't. It's on video. So imagine what they're lying about where there isn't video.
That isn't on video. That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It begs that question.
It sure do. So we all saw Rosie's farrier was in the frame.
Sorry. Every time I think of it, I get a giggle. Okay.
Okay. So yesterday, quietly, or was it yesterday? Maybe it was over the weekend. Either way, it was quietly, and it wasn't the way it was supposed to be done. CBC issues a correction to Rosie Barton, who said to, like Drea was spreading misinformation and blah, blah, blah. When Drea mentioned that she said, when Drea's question was, there have been no bodies found, the allegations have sparked an outbreak of anti-Christian hate crimes. And it's true, hate crimes against Catholics in 1 year went up like 260%. And it's directly related to church burnings. And Rosie Barton went on national TV and said that Drea was a liar and spreading misinformation. But apparently that phone call was coming from inside the house. They corrected it and said, yes, this is what Rosie said. Yes, there have been remains of Indigenous children found in various places across the country.
Incorrect.
Incorrect. Complete lie. Now, here's my problem with this. This is quietly published as an addendum on the CBC Corrections website. But see, once again, just like their workplace harassment policies, CBC is not rising to the occasion. On their clarifications and corrections principles page, I did some digging. I did the digging on CBC so that you people don't have to suffer through them. Can you bring up my tweet on this, Efron? I highlighted it with the little yellow thing that I found on my computer. I'm learning things. Anyways, it says, in many cases, the program or the platform on which the error was broadcast. Do you see that, Efron, Olivia? Can you bring up that so we can show the people? There it is.
There we go.
It says, in many cases, the program or platform on which the error was broadcast or published is the best place to broadcast or publish the correction. Ooh. As in, if you did this on a nationally broadcast program said by Rosie Barton, then that is where the correction should ethically go. Said by her, nationally broadcast. Okay? It's not. They quietly just published it somewhere. But the choice of place to broadcast or publish the correction will depend on the importance of the error and the seriousness of the consequences.
I don't think there's ever been a bigger error.
Or more serious. We're in the writ period.
Serious circumstance. Yes. No, without question.
CBC is spreading misinformation during the writ period and damaging the reputation of an independent journalist on their nationally tax-funded platform. Yes. She deserves the correction to be as loud as the error.
Yes, without question. Without question. The diplomacy that Drea Humphrey showed in that moment was an example of how journalists across the country should conduct themselves. Did was Jagmeet Singh wrong in not answering her? Of course he was. Of course he
Yep.
was. But that Drea Humphrey, who is, for all intents and purposes, the expert on these matters in Canada, on the false claims of children's graves, on the former sites of residential schools, that she asked the question. That is a question that Canadians would love to have answered, and that it was refused by Jagmeet Singh, that it was labeled misinformation or disqualified by the CBC, tells you everything you need to know about their commitment to rooting themselves in fake news. I mean, this is what it shows us, Canada. They are just committed to lying. They lie. It's what they do. But no, you're right, Sheila. Of course, Rosie Barton should be forced to read her own apology to Drea Humphrey on the national news. Of course, she should have to walk that back, because no, her statement in itself is true. Or is untrue, is untrue. There have not been bodies of children found in various locations across Canada. There have not.
Yes.
And so what she said was demonstrably untrue, and it should be said on the national news. And I think that's such an important part of this story, is that Drea's question, even though it was Jagmeet Singh refused to answer it, and even though for several hours after, I think Drea felt pretty browbeaten in that moment and pretty dejected. What it did was prove that the CBC has been lying to us for years about this. Yep. For years. So the question in itself was worthy, and one that Canada should be very, very proud she asked. I want to invent an award for Drea Humphrey for bravery in independent journalism. Like I'm going to find a bowling trophy, an old bowling trophy, repurpose it, and give it to Drea Humphrey for that question, because it did take a hell of a lot of bravery to ask it.
Drea is so sweet too. Like, she was so polite. Even I'm gonna just tell a story out of turn here, but it reflects on Drea well and me poorly. As I said, that Rosie Barton has a farrier, and I was going to say that her apology should come out of her muzzle. but Drea, she was very concerned that maybe she had tweeted the word jerk in reference to the people who were saying mean things about her, but then she realized that she sent it in a text message to somebody else. She was like, Sheila, oh my goodness, I might have called somebody a jerk on the internet. I'm like, that's your 4-letter word? Jerk? I'm yelling at everybody. I'm furious. I'm sending off furious emails. I'm literally on camera calling these people buffoons. And she's like, I may have called somebody a jerk. Is that okay? I'm like, You're entitled to call everybody a jerk right now. You're fine.
Yeah. It was warranted, but so cute that she was like concerned.
She's like, I might have called somebody a jerk on the internet. Sheila, is that okay? Because I'm the editor in chief, right? So she's like worried about her tone. She's worried she's gonna get in trouble. And I'm like, have you seen me today? Have you met me today? I'm pretty mad. Anyway,
she's adorable.
She's so sweet.
She is adorable. Like she really deserves all the praise in this moment. She really, really does. She's a national treasure. Drea Humphrey is a national treasure. Everybody you will agree with me. Our viewers will agree with me that Drea Humphrey deserves all the praise in this, because she was so very brave. And that, like, it took an immense amount of courage to get up in front of that hostile room and ask a question that she already knew none of those people would support her asking. It took a lot of courage to do that, and all of the praise to Drea Humphrey forever for that.
Under heckling and anger, and knowing that Jagmeet Singh is not going to talk to her. Like, we know that he's a coward. He doesn't like questions from Rebel News. He doesn't like the Rebel News lady journalist, as we'll come to see. But there's also something very viscerally repulsive about him speaking down to Mr. I'm all about hate has no home here, using his position of power to talk down to an Indigenous Black female journalist.
Like the only one in that room. Yeah. The only one in that room. Yeah.
And normally I don't care about those sorts of things, but Jagmeet Singh tells me he does. So I thought I would take the time to point it out. And that's also an important point. Drea is Indigenous too. And so this is something where she wants the truth, right? Now, it didn't stop with Drea's question. I'm going to show you about, it's about 5-6 minutes. Bear with us. Kat Canada, who is a Rebel News journalist who is on Vancouver Island, found Jagmeet Singh, and she was like, solidarity. I'm going to ask Drea's question, and he's going to have a tough time running away because he's in a public park. And just as we're watching this, pay attention to two things. The stupid look on Jagmeet Singh's face, and Vancouver Island, which is a bit of a lefty petri dish. Look how few people are there. Like, it looks like a senior citizen's birthday party. It does. Okay, let's roll this, and then we're going to bring Kat on, and she can tell us why she did what she did. So, go ahead.
Human rights, and humans are our natural resources.
That's our strength. Yes.
So if I can get it, can I do a selfie?
Okay, yeah.
Iris, you gotta wait a second. Okay.
No, Iris can be in here too.
Okay.
You want to be in here, Iris?
Even better.
There you go.
Love it.
Thanks so much.
Iris is our amazing volunteer.
I know Iris. Iris
Iris
is
and
cool.
Comet, come here quick. This is
Comment.
that's my little Comet.
I know Iris.
Comet's gonna make the news. Thank you. Bye bye now.
Mr. Singh, just a quick question.
No, there's no
How come
question.
you refused to answer a question from my colleague during the leadership debates? Why did you not address the rising hate against Christians in Canada? There's 19 million Christians, and you absolutely refused to answer their question. Why did you refuse to answer a question from an independent media outlet during the debates, Mr. Singh? Will you address the rising hate against Christians in Canada? Why is that so hard for you to do? There's 19 million Christians in Canada. Why are you refusing to condemn the hate and the burning of the churches in Canada?
Ma'am, this part is not open to media. So if you have media questions, can you send it to our email
I
address?
stood in line to ask a question, and I was told that I can't answer a question. Independent press is a right in Canada, and I will stand here and I will answer a question. He refused to answer, so I'm trying to get a question in.
We're not answering questions right now. This is not open to media.
Mr. Singh, why did you refuse to answer a question from an independent reporter at the leadership debates? Why are you refusing to condemn the hate against Christians in Canada? They're half of the population in this country. Are you a Christophobe, Mr. Singh? Do you condemn the Christophobia that's happening on the streets of Canada? Why is that so hard for you to do? Just a simple condemnation of the church burnings, Mr. Singh. How do you claim to represent all of Canadians if you absolutely refuse to acknowledge the 19 million Christians and their concerns in this country?
Thank you.
Just one word of condemnation against the Christophobia in this country.
Just move away, please.
I'm going to stand right here.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you mind moving out of the way?
I would prefer you say.
Well, I would
"Have a
prefer
good
that I would
day."
ask a question.
We've already let you know that we're not going to take questions from our police right now, so we can take a walk if you like.
Well, I'm gonna stand right here. It's a free sidewalk. Thanks.
Ready?
Zoom.
Oh, you know, let's turn this way. We'll get the light. Yeah. There it is.
Don't touch me.
I didn't touch you.
The timer, we're gonna shut down the timer. There it is. Nice. Awesome. So this is just here. Bye. Hey, yeah. Come on now. How you doing? Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh yeah, we forget. Yeah. We should get this. Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Just one condemnation of the church burnings, Mr. Singh. Why wouldn't you answer a question at the leadership debates about the church burnings and the rising hate against Christians in Canada? Why is that so hard for you to do? You're obviously willing to condemn Islamophobia. Why won't you condemn Christophobia, Mr. Singh? It's really easy to do. Don't touch me. Excuse me. Don't touch me. Mr. Singh, just one condemnation of the church burnings.
Thank you.
Just one condemnation of the church burnings, Mr. Singh. Just one. Can you do that, please? For the 19 million Christians in Canada?
It's crazy.
Do you have
Unreal.
one single word about the church burnings? Do you condone the church burnings in Canada? Do the church burnings make you happy in Canada? If you can speak against anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, why can't you say one word against the Christophobia happening in this country? Just one.
Yep.
It's really easy to do. I condemn the Christophobia and I condemn the hate against Christians in this country. Just that. Just one condemnation, Mr. Singh. Just one comment about the rising hate against Christians.
Watch your step. Oh yeah, this is.
Is this really how you want to come off for the millions of Canadians that have concerns about the rising hate and violence against Christians in this country?
Okay, we're gonna have to stop you here because this is where we.
This is public property.
No, this is our secure zone for the motorcade. Okay. So
Okay,
here
well,
we
I'm
go.
right here. I'm not even on the
Motorcade.
sidewalk. I'm on the grass.
About
What
this is where we
motorcade?
have a secure zone which we're allowed to keep for his protection
Okay,
to get him
I'm
onto us.
on
Okay.
the
No,
grass.
that's good.
I'm
There, you're
far
perfect
away.
there. There, you're perfect.
Thank you.
That's all I ask. Thank you.
Do you see that?
Do you know who that chubby video cameraman is right there?
I don't know any of them.
No?
Can't remember.
You look pretty fit.
You look pretty fit. Oh. Oh God, we've got
Well-
Kat with us, but yeah, good to point out that there's other media there. It's a. And then he's like, "There's. This isn't open to media. It's a park."
Dude, who are all the people with cameras then and lighting and fancy setups? Like who are those guys then? If no media, we're not taking any questions while he fields questions from people that are just gathered around. Sure, guys. Mhm.
Let's bring in Kat.
here
Hi,
she
Kat.
is.
Here's the woman
Hi,
of the
Sheila.
hour. Hi,
Hi,
Kat. Thanks for doing that. I didn't even know you were. Then you messaged me and you're like, I just got Jagmeet Singh. So tell us how it all
How
went
did
down.
that happen? Yeah.
I was literally at home watching CPAC, and I saw that there was a live stream happening with Singh. And when they panned out, I saw where it was. It was literally 3 minutes from my place. And so I didn't even message anyone. I just grabbed my phone and my backup charger, and I booted down there to see if I can approach him and engage with him, because I knew that it would likely be possible because it's such an open space. And I've been at a presser there before for Poilievre, so I knew the layout of the land. There's a playground there. My kids go to play there. So I knew that I would be able to approach him from somewhere, because there's no way that they were going to keep me completely out of the area because it was open. So I booted it down there and I waited. I stood in line. They kicked me out of the line because they're like, who are you? And I said, Rebel News. They're like, we don't take questions from Rebel News because you guys are misinformation and disinformation. I pressed her on what that disinformation is. Obviously, she had nothing to say except repeat the lines, just like a standard programmed NPC. And so I just waited until the presser was over and decided to approach him when he walked away from the very, very, very small crowd of supporters that was there for his photo op against the Nanaimo background, and it tried to engage with him for the sake of Canadians and for my colleague Drea, for everyone at Rebel, for everyone in Canada watching, the hypocrisy, the sanctimony about condemning hate only when it's politically advantageous.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, I was just going to say, it's wild to see someone unable to say, yeah, don't burn churches. Like, that's literally what you were asking him to say. And that was, I guess, just a bridge too far for him. It's just bizarre. And he comes off looking like an absolute goofball.
Well, I knew he wasn't going to answer any questions because they've already made that pretty clear. I was just hoping to exactly do what I did, which is make him look so just snobbish and completely refused. I literally had to Google how many Christians in Canada before I even tried to engage with him, just to kind of get a gauge on how many people he's literally ignoring. And it turns out that it's nearly half the country in Canada that he's absolutely spitting in the face off by saying, I won't even look at you. I won't even say one word begrudgingly to you to address the concerns that you have about your places of worship being burned down. I think we're at 150 plus now or something like that. Church burnings in Canada. 200. Based on a hoax, based on disproven information. And he wasn't willing to condemn that. And I was just hoping to make him look exactly as he looked in that video, because I knew he wasn't going to talk to me.
Well, you did a good job. I mean, God bless your tenacious nature, Kat. You didn't ask once and sort of back off. You had to fight through this sort of crew of pink hairs and handlers here that are surrounding him. I mean, look at that big guy surrounded by women to protect him. Sends women to stave you off, to keep you from answering or asking these inconvenient questions. How many people were at that event, Kat, if you had to guess?
So there was a gaggle of media. There's lots of cameras. So maybe 3 or 4 dozen people watching him give his presser. There was a tight group of very woke-looking crowd people right behind him that kind of hung back after the fact to tell him that they're terrified of conservatives getting in because their they-them partner is worried that they're going to be outlawed in Canada, which is obviously absolutely ridiculous. And, maybe 1 or 2 other supporters stopping for a selfie. Basically, and that was it. There was more media than supporters. There was his volunteers standing behind him, making him look popular. I don't know if they're paid. I have no idea. So no, not a very big crowd at all for him in terms of support. Lots of media and some props behind him standing to make him look good, I guess.
That's what happens when the union gives you the morning off with pay, but you got to go stand behind Jagmeet Singh.
Hey, Kat, can I ask you a question? One of the most interesting and compelling things about you is that your family escaped a communist country to come to Canada. And I'm curious, what similarities, if any, do you see between the country that you escaped to come to Canada from and current day Canada?
Good question.
Yeah. Yeah, so yes, my family fled the former Soviet Union. I was 11 years old when we came to this amazing country, when it was still beautiful and free and great. And it all kind of started unraveling for me especially during the lockdowns under COVID, when I saw very similar tactics used by the government, for example, to censor people, to impose unlawful mandates on people, losing medical freedom, losing freedom of speech, losing freedom of mobility just within your own country without, if you didn't have any vaccination papers, you couldn't travel. They demonized however many millions of us there were that were refusing to comply. They were pitting us against each other. That's a pretty common tactic, divide and conquer. And ever since then, it's just been progressively increasing with the censorship bills, demonizing independent media, refusing attendance to independent media like Rebel News into press conferences, and only pre-approved questions are basically a go for the socialists, champagne socialists like Singh and back when Trudeau was still in power, bloated government. There's just so many similarities. And I know it's not just me, it's a lot of people from the Eastern Bloc who escaped the communist region and the Soviet era who are sounding the alarm about all of this that's happening, because the signs are very clear that if we continue down this path, it'll lead to utter tyranny where no freedom of the press exists, no freedom of speech exists, and that's what communism is. So I know we may not be called a communist country, and the Liberal Party claims to be liberal, but I believe that it was a very based president from the 70s that said if fascism, or I guess you could even say communism, ever comes to North America, it will be under the guise of liberalism. So it's many, many different signs, and they're quite obvious to me and to people who fled the region that I did. And that's why we're just trying to sound the alarm. And being, getting so much trouble and hate for our troubles for it, being called tinfoil hatters and nut jobs and all this. I'm just trying to preserve the freedoms in this country for my children.
That was an incredible answer, Kat. Just incredible. Yeah, beautifully done. Beautifully done. Well, Canada, you just heard it from somebody who experienced it in her earlier life. We are sliding down the slippery slope of authoritarianism. Kat just gave you more than a handful of reasons or examples that she has identified as more than problematic. And if this doesn't raise the red flags, I'm not sure what will. Kat, what a gorgeous answer. Thanks so much.
Kat, thanks so much for your hard work. Thanks for having the work ethic that the mainstream media doesn't have, to see something breaking in your neighborhood on TV, put your shoes on and go there and get the story. It's funny because that was their big criticism, was how did Rebel News get all those questions during the debate? I literally looked for the X on the floor and I was like, I bet that's where they're going to put the microphone for the questions. And then I just sat down beside it. It's just a matter of working smarter and sometimes working harder. So I appreciate you for that. Thanks. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Yeah, me neither. Great job, Kat.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. Do we need to hit a quick Rebel News ad break, and we'll come back? And I just want to talk real quickly about the poor behavior of Glenn McGregor. I know it wasn't in our lineup, but that man is not right in his melon, and I'll show you why. Do we need a Rebel News ad break, though? Okay, we'll do a quick one. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA Hats to introduce, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
Okay. I know we don't have a ton of time left on the show. Olivia Efron, we might go about 10 minutes long, but I just wanted to talk about this because in a week of media being bad, there are a few that are standing out amongst the worst. Rosie Barton, of course, Ethan Cox, Stuart Benson, Cochrane over at the CBC.
Yeah.
And then there's Glenn McGregor. Now, Poilievre was in BC, I believe, and he was making a drug policy announcement. And what a great announcement it was. Very similar to what we're doing here in Alberta, where he promises if he's elected, he will stop the taxpayer-funded safe supply of opioid poisons, and also allow judges to mandate drug addicts as part of their sentences into treatment, because you can send them to jail, but it doesn't fix the underlying reason for the criminality, and that is by and large the opioid crisis and addiction. Now, if you are not following the New Westminster Times, go get your phone, open it up to X, follow the New Westminster Times on X, because they have they're truly independent. They cover stories that the mainstream media won't. And a great example of one of their journalists is Lorraine Brett. Lorraine Brett was local to the Poilievre campaign announcement, and she was there on a drug policy announcement to ask questions about drug policy. Lorraine testified in December at the House of Commons Health Committee about how her son is a drug addict who is now in recovery. And she talked about the damage that the opioid crisis and safe supply has done to her family. It very nearly claimed her son. So she has a unique perspective on this as both a journalist and a mom. She's an expert.
She is an expert. Yes, she is an expert.
It would be like me asking about the canola issue as a farmer and a journalist. She's a mom of a child in recovery and a journalist. She asks about this stuff. And who accuses her of being a conservative plant? Glenn McGregor. Glenn McGregor, you might recall him being the absolute unhinged goofball who was shoving protesters outside of Tamara Leach's trial on the steps of the Ottawa courthouse. The man cannot control himself. Look, there he is. He's in the blue suit. That's a professional journalist. Prize fighting grandmas on the steps of the courthouse.
What?
Yes.
Oh
okay.
my.
I was trapped in a room with him for 2 days. So let's just remember, this is not unique or out of character for Glenn.
Okay.
So I guess we should all be surprised that he didn't get handsy with Lorraine, but I think we have a clip of him confronting Lorraine, accusing her of being a conservative plant. Like, look at this. Anyways, let's watch this, because this is awful behavior.
The despair of death through drug use over resuscitation.
I understand that, but you know, we get only a limited amount of questions to ask Mr. Poilievre.
Yeah.
You're coming here, you have an issue, and it's, I understand how passionate you are and important it is to you personally.
Yeah.
But you're asking a question that sounds like to a lot of people listening at home that it was planted by the campaign.
No.
And you're attacking you're attacking his opponents.
report.
Okay,
An
great.
investigative report, and I hope that you do read it.
I will.
We know for a fact that BC's mental health, the healthcare ministry has delivered to activists millions and millions of dollars funneled there to support what? To support treatment? No, not in your life. To support the proper medication for the severely mentally ill. To provide a bed so that your child isn't sleeping in the woods at night?
Yeah.
No, they were not supporting that. They were supporting people who wanted to defund the police, who wanted to deregulate drug use or decriminalize drug use.
That's one of the best and brightest journalists in this country, that Glenn McGregor. You're a conservative plant. She's like, no, I'm asking about drug policy. The New Westminster Times does these in-depth investigations into the failings of the drug policy. They do great work. Lorraine is a mom of a son in recovery. She's not a plant. She's just somebody who knows something, and she's asking a question.
The subject matter expert. And she's accused of, because this is what they want to do. They want to label you as extraordinarily biased or somehow involved or somehow ingratiated within the political party that you're asking questions of. And that man should be real embarrassed for himself right at this moment. I mean, I hope he is.
People without shame cannot feel embarrassed of themselves. I don't think. We saw his unhinged behavior in Ottawa.
And who does he work for, Sheila? Who does he
works
work
for Global now. I think he used to work for CTV, got booted from there. I think he's at Global. Yeah, he's at Global now.
Okay. Yeah. City News.
Or City, sorry. Yeah, City. Sorry. I'm very sorry, Global. I wouldn't want I wouldn't want to pin Glenn McGregor on you guys.
Sorry. Yeah, but if this is how he would treat a mother who almost very, very nearly lost her own son, whose own
Several
son
times.
has been through this battle for years and years and years. I mean, just imagine how he'd treat you, Canada. With contempt, with open, naked contempt.
But it also shows how little he knows about the actual subject matter. Lorraine testified at the health committee. She testified. Like, she's not an idiot. You know what he should have done before he asked that question? Opened up his phone and went, "Hi, Google, who is Lorraine Brett?" And you would have seen her investigative journalism. You would have seen her testimony at the health committee. But he didn't do that because that's the very least amount of journalism somebody could have done. And he didn't even do that.
But it's such a tactic of the left is to assume that you're there as a bad actor or under, what is the word they use? Oh, right now they're using the word bad faith. Okay. Oh, they're asking questions in bad faith. And this is what they use to discount mainly conservatives or anybody that's against any one of their crazy leftist initiatives. Is they'll accuse you of being a bad faith actor or a bad actor. They'll label you as the purveyor of misinformation or of disinformation to, sort of render your argument useless before they even understand who you are. Here you have a subject matter expert who has more than enough personal experience to speak on the thing that she asked the question about. And yet he's already trying to label her as a purveyor of misinformation or disinformation or a bad actor. Like, what a time to be alive.
Imagine looking at a mother and a journalist who's lived through this and immediately trying to discredit her. That is the mind of these people. That's the mind of these people.
Well, as a parental rights advocate, this is what I've seen over and over. And for years, this is what they do. They'll try and discredit you to make you be quiet. And the point is to not be quiet, to not do what they're doing, to stick to your arguments and she did a masterful job at keeping her cool right there. I'm not sure I would have been able to keep my cool like Lorraine did right there. So.
And, it also leads you to the other side of the question. They never ask the protesters against parents' rights on the steps of the Alberta legislature and the Saskatchewan legislature, if they are liberal plants, even if they're taxpayer funded, They never do. They never ask
what branch of CUPE? Yeah, what branch of CUPE paid for the bus that got you here and bought the food and paid you to be here? Like, what local of CUPE did that?
Yeah,
They
is
never
your
ask
union
those
steward
questions.
here? They never ask those questions.
No.
They never ask the people who are testifying in favor of opioids at the health committee
how they're benefiting, how they're financially benefiting.
Yeah. Or how much money Health Canada gave them to push these bad ideas. They never accuse those people of being liberal plants. It's this one mom that they go after.
Yeah, it's always
who
the
does it
moms
out
they
of
go
love
after.
and expertise. We've got a couple more things that I want to get to because they're on the YouTube headline. So yesterday I did a story. I saw Blacklocks covered it first because they get up so early.
They're so good.
But so good. And then so I
good.
thought, oh, that report is crazy. Let us go read it. So I read this Privy Council report from my policy options, policy horizons, whatever it is. It's the bureaucrats. It's their little in-house think tank of the Privy Council.
Right.
And it was about what Canada would be like in 2040 if things go the way they are. And so I read it. And I did a big long X thread on it.
Masterful, by the way. Like, I've read your X thread. Like, I hope we read it word. I have it open right here. Like, I hope we read it word for word. Because with every tweet that I read, I went, holy crap. Oh my God, holy crap. And so many of the things that you mentioned, Sheila, you can already see happening in Canada.
You could see it.
Like,
like
it's foreshadowing.
multi-generational mortgages, choking the geese down at the local park to feed your family, adult children just saying, I'm never going to buy a house, so I'll just wait on my parents to die. All the wealth and power sort of being accumulated in a property owning aristocracy.
Yes.
It's all happening. It's all happening.
Here's one of your tweets. Quote, in 2040, people rarely mix with others of different socioeconomic status. Algorithmic dating apps filter by class. Gated metaverses like real life offer few opportunities to meet people from different backgrounds. Welcome to the caste system 2.0. And I went, this is already happening. This is absolutely already happening. The value of human labor has shrunk because of AI. The best AI assistants are expensive. This reinforces structural inequalities. End quote. You'll be replaced by an algorithm you can't afford to compete with. This is already happening. Yeah. Post-secondary education is no longer considered a reliable path to social mobility. Tuition and housing costs exclude all but the wealthy. So much for learn to code. No kidding. Universities become elite clubs. Fewer young people choose post-secondary education. Those who do see it as a way to reinforce their membership in the elite. This is already happening. This was so staggering to read. And and Blacklocks did this sort of brilliant, somebody was like, well, how come I couldn't find this on the internet? And Blacklocks is like, because the government makes it real hard to find things like this on the internet. And that we did was a miracle. So share it far and wide. So all the props to Blacklocks for exposing this.
Yep.
But what it does is it paints such a chilling picture of Canada by 2040. Guys, this is
15 years away.
15 years from now, where we are all siloed, where we don't exist out of our own little tiny circles, where our kids don't have a future, and where people that want their kids to have a future are forced to leave. This is what they're saying is in the works for us, Canada.
Yeah.
It is chilling.
Those horrors that I read to you, or that Lise read to you, that I wrote, and I did a video on it yesterday too, so you can find that on the Rebel News YouTube channel. Those are the people who either don't have money to be sort of this upper crust aristocracy. The horrors are for the people left behind, because as the Privy Council points out, people who are mobile will just leave to other jurisdictions, including people who migrated here for opportunities.
We're already seeing that happen.
Are giving up.
Yep, we're already seeing that happen. People that arrived in Canada 5 and 6 years ago with the promise of, freedom and being able to work and being able to buy a home and raise their families are leaving Canada laden with credit card and mortgage debt going back to the countries they came from, saying this was a false promise. Canada did not deliver on what they said they would deliver on. One of your other tweets: owning a home is not realistic. Some take out intragenerational mortgages. Others enter alternative household mortgages with friends. That's your Brookfield housing pods, guys. Another tweet: people may start to hunt and fish and forage on public lands and waterways without reference to regulations. This is already happening. And it gets darker. Sheila Gunn Reid says people may reject the state's legitimacy, higher rates of tax evasion, and other forms of civil disobedience. Sound familiar, Canada? Does this sound familiar to anyone? Is this ringing anybody's bells? Like, oh wow, this sounds a lot like what we're starting to see here. Well, Privy Council, these are the people that advise the Prime Minister's office, agree that this is what's happening and what we can expect to happen in Canada if we don't course correct right today.
Now, Poilievre was asked about this dystopian future. He was asked about it by our friend, the scrawler, Joe Warmington, I believe. We've got a clip of that.
So Mr. Carney has the same Liberal MPs, same Liberal ministers, same Liberal platform, and you will get the same disastrous Liberal results. And it is a very dangerous future if the Liberals get their fourth term. And this isn't just my words. It's Mark Carney's own government department. Just a week ago, we learned that one of the departments of the government, the Privy Council office, has made some very depressing predictions about the way the country is headed after a decade of Liberal rule. I'm going to quote directly from this Privy Council report. In 2040, upward mobility is almost unheard of in Canada, they predict. Hardly anyone believes they can build a better life for themselves or their children through their own efforts, and many worry about sliding down the social order. It forecasts more people may struggle to afford rent, bills, and groceries. Resulting stress could worsen mental health challenges. This would increase demand for social services. And then there's some specific forecasts that the current Liberal government is making about our future. In 2040, owning a home is not a realistic goal for many. Inequality between those who rent and those who own has become a key driver of social, economic, and political conflict. The report goes on to say that people may lose faith in the Canadian project altogether. It forecasts that many will leave the country to avoid this rising cost and declining opportunity. And they believe that it will lead to a mental health crisis. More people will emigrate to jurisdictions where they believe upward mobility and or higher standards of living are easier to obtain. Quote, if young workers leave Canada, it may become harder to pay for the systems that support a growing number of older people. It says things are so bad that, and this is a quote, I'm quoting from the government here. If I had said this myself, you would have thought it was outlandish, but this is the government's own predictions about how bad things are headed right now. People may start to hunt, fish, and forage on public lands and waterways because they can't afford groceries anymore. This isn't my prediction. This is where the country is headed if we continue down the Liberal track. It sounds incredible, something from a post-apocalyptic TV show like Fallout or The Last of Us, but this is the forecast from Prime Minister Carney's own government department, the Privy Council office.
I want to make a note. I want to make a note too here. So this report was written at the beginning of January. So this is under Justin Trudeau's spending. So it was released now, but it was written in January. So that it's worse now because Carney is going to spend $100 billion more than Justin Trudeau. So that acceleration
this is accelerated. That's right.
Yeah, think 2035-ish.
That's 10 years. That's 10. So like I know for so many of us, when we think back to our lives pre-Justin Trudeau, think of yourself 2013, 2014, and how great life in Canada was, and how we are all sort of shocked and horrified in the destruction of the country that we knew in 10 years. So take that destruction, accelerate it, and think of what a poor place we could be in 2035. It's nearly unthinkable. It's actually quite chilling when you think about it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we simply cannot afford as a nation. The nation will not survive another 10 years of this. It just simply will cease to exist. What they are suggesting here is that with the same levels of, accelerated liberal spending that we've had for the last 10 years, for these next 10 years, is that Canadians will be plunged back to 1800s, where we're foraging for food, where people don't leave their socioeconomic circles of influence, where it's impossible to get housing, where it's impossible for your children to have a future, where there's this caste of super elites that are created by our university systems that only the very, very rich can afford. I mean, this is staggering. This is staggering. Do we want this for us?
Yeah,
God,
this drives humanity back 1,000 years.
Yes.
Where there are people damned to serfdom because of the socioeconomic class in which they were born, and then the landowning nobility, and the rest of us just work for them. It's terrible.
This is wild. This is in 10 years.
And yeah, I mean, this is what the Privy Council big thinkers are saying is on our way. And that is from January. So now we've got Mark Carney, who is spending more and
Canada.
doing less.
Oh, Canada. Red flags. Red flags. There's a reason why the Liberals' color is red, and why all of the bad flags are that same color.
Right. We've got, speaking of bad flags being colored red, China is back in the news. The feds have confirmed, in a shock to absolutely nobody, that Conservative candidate Joe Tay is being targeted by Chinese influence campaign. We've got...
Shush.
Well, I never. Let's watch the clip from the site task force announcing that China is interfering in the election of Conservative candidate Joe Tay. And then we'll explain why. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Good morning. You mentioned a possible tie through Facebook to the Chinese government in the operation that you've explained today. Could you elaborate on that, and to what degree is this repression operation you've identified the work of Beijing?
And then I'll invite my colleagues to jump in. So as I said, attribution can take time. It requires a lot of analysis. And so at this point, what we can say is that one Facebook account has been historically linked to PRC and pro-PRC elements. And maybe I'll turn to Larissa if you have more to add.
Sure. Thank you. I think it's important to remember that the material that we're seeing now is mostly linked to the bounty that was placed on Mr. Tay in December of 2024. We know who issued that bounty and what's behind it, and that it is specifically about his advocacy work in relation to Hong Kong. So that is the nub of the content that is being circulated and recirculated and referred to in new material, and we know the source of that.
The bounty in question made headlines in Canada for other reasons through discussion in the context of the current election. Does any of that discussion in Canada, has any of that played into or amplified what we're talking about today?
I don't know that we've seen significant evidence of that playing into it. I think among the communities, the bounty is well known. what I would say, part of what has caused us to speak out today is the dual factor of the amplification of the information around the bounty, but also the suppression of Mr. Tay's name on some of these platforms. And so I think that's kind of more where we're seeing the impact. But Larissa or Vanessa, I don't know if there's more to add.
And the suppression is linked to legal requirements that platforms operating out of China have to suppress criticism of the PRC and of the Communist Party. So there's a link there, and as Lori-Ann said, this is something that we've seen more recently on the platforms, and is obviously a concerning trend.
Christopher Nard.
Okay. So you're telling me China feels confident to continue to intimidate Joe Tay after Mark Carney refused to remove Paul Chang, who offered to sell Paul or Joe Tay for the bounty, the $1 million bounty to China, and then replaced that Chinese spy police officer with another Chinese spy police officer, Peter Yuen, who, sang that like Chinese Communist Manifesto anthem, and also I think appeared at a Chinese military parade in 2015. So you're telling me that in this CCP infested hotbed with direct ties to the Liberals over and over again, that China feels confident to intimidate Joe Tay and know that they're not going to get any repercussions? Well, I never.
Well, I could never have seen this coming. They did mention one Facebook account where they have demonstrable proof of ties to the PRC, but what they did not say is the thousands and thousands and thousands of WeChat accounts.
WeChat, exactly.
That is what they did not say. And the suppression, so they did note that the suppression of Joe Tay is ongoing right now. And that is part of the calling card of authoritarian regimes, where you suppress the voice or the message of anybody who who dissents against whatever the PRC is saying. Another one of the ways they do this is by attacking. Another one of the ways they do this is by threatening. And another one of the ways they do this is by kidnapping and imprisoning. And Joe Tay might be the most vulnerable politician in Canada right now, just simply because there is so much attention being put on him by the Communist Party of China. It's wild.
Well, and it's not even
happening in Canada.
It's not even Joe Tay. It's Joe Tay's family. It's anybody that Joe Tay cares about. All of those people are in big, big trouble. And of course, again, the Chinese Communist Party feels perfectly confident to do this, because if you can threaten to sell your competitor to the embassy for $1 million and the prime minister of the country is like, haha, no, we're not. I'm fully confident he learned his lesson. Okay, what lesson was that? And what are those consequences? Absolutely none.
Yes.
If the prime minister of the country isn't taking it seriously, you can get away with, well, I mean, kidnapping is like right next door to murder. I was going to say you can get away with murder, but pretty close. I mean, what happens to you if you get sold to China?
Well, it's the disappearing. It's the disappearing, right? And this is a well-known tactic of China and other communist regimes, where you will, if you speak out against them, if you have a dissenting voice, if you have criticisms, valid criticisms against a communist government, you will just disappear. This is the way communism works. I mean, that it is happening on Canadian soil is so alarming. But I mean, I guess it's part and parcel. This is the Canada that we see devolving in front of our eyes. And again, we have one shot to make this right, Canada, and God help us if we don't.
Well, and I think it's also slightly interesting that the Liberals have done everything they could possibly do to suppress people talking on Facebook, sharing news on Facebook, Instagram.
It's suppression. It's suppression. Yes.
But the focus, right? Their focus was stopping Canadians from sharing news about the Liberals being bad on Facebook and Instagram. Meanwhile, inquiry after inquiry alphabet agency after alphabet agency is like, WeChat. This is all coming from WeChat. We have to do something about WeChat. And nothing is ever done about WeChat. Why? Because the targets of the WeChat attacks are never liberals. Wonder why that is.
Wonder why.
Wonder
why. Again,
yeah.
Color us shocked.
Color me shocked. Let's get to some of these chats and then we'll wrap the show because we're 20 minutes over time and I got stuff to do, and Lise, I'm sure you do too. We've got 279 from Alex Greer, who says, at a go, Drea. Yes, couldn't be prouder of her.
Yeah.
This is not a paid chat, but it is an interesting chat. And this should inspire you guys to chat amongst each other, because sometimes we'll read the things that are not paid, but also interesting. Comment says, Cat versus Freeland in a cage match.
Oh, I'd take Cat any day.
Any day.
Any day.
She looks wiry. Like she'd be hard to get your hands on.
And actually, Cat met Chrystia Freeland on an airplane once. She actually did have an interaction with Chrystia Freeland. She won.
Yeah. Now, Freeland does have a very low center of gravity, sort of like a bowling pin. So Cat might be up against that.
Just a quick little gremlin of a creature. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to see her in a wrestling singlet, though, either. So it's a bad idea, Comet. I take it all back. I'm confident Cat would win, maybe, but it would last longer than we would all like, including Cat. Another one from Rob ProShop, 1977, $5. If he can't answer a simple question, even if he doesn't agree with Rebel News, how is he going to negotiate with any country like India?
Bro,
exactly. If I got him, because like Drea and I were like right in front of each other in the lineup at the debates. I'll tell you a little inside baseball. At the debates, it was like Kian Bexty and then Alex Zoltan of True North. They got up there like 20 minutes early, and I was like, you little scamps. So then a lady whom I like from the CBC and she sort of was like, I see what they're doing. So she got up, and I was like, dang it, Kian, I don't want to stand forever, but I was like, okay, I'll get in the line because people are starting to line up. So I was fourth in the English line. Drea was like, Sheila, what are you doing? I'm like, Drea, get up here. And then I was like, Ezra, get up here, but he was too busy tweeting or something. And so, and Alexa was like right at the front of the French line, right? So it was just honestly hustle that got us there. So Ezra didn't get a question because I think he was tweeting. And so it was like, Drea was behind me. And the question I had for Singh was, look, if you can't take a question from, I was going to ask him about canola tariffs or something. And then my follow-up would have been, if you can't take a question from Rebel News, how can Canadians trust you to negotiate anything with Donald Trump? But Drea was very moved by the spirit to put her question to Singh. So I said, Drea, do you want to switch with me? I can ask a question to anybody. I don't care who's next. It's of no consequence to me. I got a million things to ask these guys. So I switched with Drea so that she, like last minute, so that she could put that question to Jagmeet Singh. And as it turns out, I ended up with Poilievre, which was fine. But that happened last minute. So Rob, that is the question I was going to ask Jagmeet Singh.
That's perfect timing. Perfect timing, Sheila Gunn Reid.
Yeah. Good morning, ladies. Thanks to the lovely lady for pressing Sing. That's Kat. That was awesome. So, yes.
Yep, she's awesome.
We've got another chat missed from yesterday's live stream. This is Yuta Bursey, who's paid me many dollars to answer my question about how best to say her name, and I keep forgetting. But now I remembered. I put on a sticky note. It's Yuta Bursey. And she gives us $5. Carney lies every time he opens his mouth. Go and sue the pants off Carney. Well, Ezra's gonna. They used our trademark in their little scheme with the buttons.
We didn't even get to this. Oh, I'm so excited about this, Sheila.
So if you guys aren't paying attention, make sure you sign up for Rebel News emails, because you'll get this right to your email inbox to get around the social media censorship. But you know their little scheme where they planted the buttons at the Canada Strong and Free conference that said "Make Canada Great Again" to try to make the Conservatives there seem Trumpy? Look, I wish they were Trumpier. Like, don't threaten me with a good time, but they're not.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was to sort of like link them tangentially with Trumpiness. Well, I'll have you know, and but also everybody else who's using this and printing it on your stuff, Rebel News owns that trademark. And so now Ezra's like, they've damaged me. They've used my property.
Because it was revealed that the buttons that were left at the Canada Strong and Free Network conference in Ottawa of like a week and a half ago were actually planted by Liberal Party insiders.
Yes, insiders. The war room directly.
Oh, I mean,
and
to say that
Carney apologized for it. Carney apologized for it. So
he admitted
now we know it was
that
you.
It was them. Yes, it was crazy.
Know it was you.
This is just nuts. So, because the Liberal Party insiders, the war room people, used one of Rebel News's trademarked slogans, which is "Make Canada Great Again," Rebel is suing the Liberal Party for trademark infringement. So you know who's going to get to the bottom of this? You know who's going to get to the bottom of this entire mystery about who did who planned this? Who okayed the buttons? Who got into the room? Who put them there? You know who's going to get to the bottom of that? It's Rebel News. Like, this is just incredible. And such a masterstroke, because like Ezra had no idea back in 2016 when he trademarked this slogan, "Make Canada Great Again," that this was going to percolate up through in the craziest manner during an election period through a conservative networking group. He had no idea that this was going to happen. You protect a slogan so that you make sure that anybody that makes a hat, you know, the little creators and stuff, they're like, oh, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon and make a hat or a hoodie or a whatever. Well, no, Rebel News comes in and says, hey, PS, that's our slogan. We've trademarked it. No problem if you want to sell it, but you're going to have to pay a licensing fee to us. This is what trademarks are. Rebel News, absolute masterstroke, 10 years ahead of the game, trademarked this slogan. And we are going to find out the evildoers in the Liberal Party of Canada and who did all of that instigating at the Canada Strong and Free Network. Just awesome.
Yeah,
just awesome.
I mean, because the people have never been named. Now, they are known to the journalist who reported on it. We know that they are not some intern, because an intern would have been fired. They would have been thrown on the bonfire of the news cycle. These are very important people from within the party and the Liberal Party war room. And if I had to guess, they probably have ties back to Doug Ford. So either way, maybe my suspicions are right. Maybe they're wrong. But you know who's going to tell us? The courts. We're going to get to find out who violated that trademark. And so
that's right.
It's
so exciting. I mean, it's just incredible. It's a masterstroke. And kudos to Rebel News for trademarking that so long ago, for seeing it for such a great slogan, and for saying, you know what, we're going to jump on this train. We're going to make this ours. And who knew the way that it was going to unravel in these last couple of weeks? But I just can't wait. There should be some people in this world, Sheila Gunn Reid, that are scared. Very, very nervous right now.
Find somebody who loves you as much as Ezra Levant loves solving his problems with lawsuits, because man, that makes him happy.
Just a happy warrior,
warrior. Yuta goes on to say, Ezra, do you realize how often you're quoting the Bible when she says light will expose the darkness? Yeah, Ezra's a bit of a biblical scholar. Sometimes it feels like, although sometimes he gets confused and he'll say stuff like, is that from your side of the book or my side of the book? I'm like, it's our side of the book.
Right. Yeah. It's both a good book, both good books. Yeah.
Yes. All right. I think that's it, unless we have anything left as far as chats. Olivia, please let us know. I've just fumbled and opened. Okay, we're good. I opened up every single window on my computer for no good reason right there. Well, Lise, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming on this wild ride of the show with me today.
Well, always a pleasure, doll. We'll see you tomorrow.
Can't wait. There's so much to talk about. This is the craziest part of the campaign, is this next week.
It's going to go wild. It's going to go wild.
We're, as somebody pointed out on X, we're entering the guns, abortion, trans part of the debate when the Liberals get real desperate. So we'll see how it goes.
I've been waiting for this.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us, Canada. It's been a slice.
Yes. Thanks to everybody who works behind the scenes at Rebel News to bring in the show when you want to see it, how you want to see it. Thanks to everybody who pitched in a little bit to keep the lights on here at Rebel News. We couldn't do it without you. If your pockets are too empty, thanks to Justin Trudeau and now Mark Carney's policies, do us a favor. Share the stream with someone you think needs to see it. That's the best way to help us, is make sure these messages get in front of somebody else. And I'll see everybody here tomorrow with the same co-host and same co-host. It's different for me. And as my friend David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.